Hi and welcome to the Mum Boss Method podcast. I'm Chrissy Hiller and I am the Mum Boss. Before I jump into today's episode, which is all about staying on track at the weekend, I want to ask you a favour. Please, if you are enjoying the episodes on this podcast, please can you subscribe to the podcast and rate and review it? Whatever platform you're on. This really helps the podcast. I have just hit just over 3,500 downloads. I'd love to get that to 4,000 in the next couple of weeks, but also I really want to share the message, share all of this help and support to other people. And also the more support I get for the podcast, the better the content, the guests, the interviews I can bring to you. So I would love it if you would just help me do that. That would be amazing. Okay, let's crack on and get on with today's episode, shall we? So one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about was staying on track at the weekend. This is something that comes up with a lot of people. I know it is a really popular topic for a lot of people who have, whether it be fat loss goals or just health goals. And so I've got some tips for you that can really help you to make sure that you stay on track at the weekend. Okay, so use these tips to help you and let me know how you get on. So tip number one then, it's about changing your mindset. So if you struggle to stay on track at the weekend, it's really likely that you are using this, or you have the mindset of, I'm on the diet, I'm off the diet. So we tend to be on Monday to say Friday lunchtime, then come Friday evening, it hits 5 o'clock or whatever time you finish work. For those people who work Monday to Friday, 9 till 5, I realise that not everyone does, but whatever that week might look like for you, it gets to that Friday evening and you are off again, okay? That's it. It's time for a treat. I've survived the week. I've worked hard all week. It's time to let my hair down a little bit at the weekend. I want you to switch this mindset, okay? I don't want you to think about it as being on or off, because then we're just stepping into, all of those mindset pieces that aren't helpful when you have health goals. So actually, what I'd rather you do is balance it out across the week. So rather than thinking of on again, off again, think of it as decision-based days. So what are the decisions I'm going to make today that are going to help me to achieve my goals? And I talked in last week's episode about values-based goals, which makes our decisions much, much easier. So go back and listen to that if you need to. But rather than having this, I'm on track, I have to be really good Monday to Friday and then I can let my hair down at the weekend, I want you to try and balance it out across the week a little bit more. So I try not to use the term treats in my coaching, but I'm going to use it in this example because I think it's really much easier for people to understand then. So rather than save your treats till the weekend, why not incorporate them into the other days as well? Now, okay, you might have a I don't drink rule unless it's the weekend. Okay, that's fair enough, and I can understand that. But rather than diving headfirst into the biscuit tin or buying yourself loads of chocolate because it's Saturday or because it's Sunday, why not, spread some of those things out within the week? So we seem to treat Friday, Saturday and Sunday as if they're a free-for-all. Well, all of those days end in Y, okay? All of those days end in DAY. Let's just try and even it out across the weekend. Switch your mindset off. Change your mindset. Switch it up. And stop using this on again, off again mentality, okay? And balance things out across the week. So if you fancy a biscuit and it's Tuesday, have a biscuit. If you want pudding and it's Thursday, have pudding, rather than only allowing yourselves these things at the weekend. Okay, so that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is all around structure and routine. And actually, I guess these aren't necessarily tips, they're kind of strategies. So many people say, I have less routine at the weekend. And I would challenge you for that, okay, particularly if you have children. Because yes, you might not, if you're a standard Monday to Friday worker, you might not have to get up at 6:30 on a Saturday or a Sunday, but I bet there are still things you have to do Saturday and Sunday, most Saturdays and Sundays, like as part of a routine. And if nothing else, you still have to shower yourself, you still have to feed yourself. So there's 2 routines you already have. There's 2 habits that still need to happen every weekend. So often it's not that we don't have structure and routine at the weekend, it's just that those structures and routines look different to Monday to Friday. So actually, what can you do that creates a routine for that Friday, Saturday and Sunday, or at least Friday evening, Saturday and Sunday? So they might not look like Monday to Friday do, but on Saturday and Sunday, what are the regular routines? So keep some things the same. Let me give you an example. I don't have to get up at 5 o'clock on a Saturday. I get up at 6 and go to the gym because it's not open until 7. But I'm still doing that same thing. I'm still doing I go to the gym on a Saturday and then I go 4 other days during the week. I still have the same breakfast pretty much every day of the week. The only time I change it is if I go out, really. So that's one thing that is already done. For Saturday and Sunday, I know Saturday I gym, and Saturday and Sunday I have the same breakfast. Okay, what else can you keep the same? So again, for me, I've fit my food shop in after my gym session. So I finish at the gym, I hop across to the supermarket, I do my supermarket shopping, I'm home by 9:15. And then the next thing I do, which is exactly the same as any other day of the week, is I take the dog out. Then I come home, shower, have my breakfast. Okay, so what can you keep the same? What tends to happen every day of the week? Okay, I've not mentioned Charlie, I've not mentioned my son in that once, and you might be thinking, yeah, but Chrissy, I've got kids to run around here, there and everywhere. Okay, let me give you the example of my husband. He manages and coaches Charlie's football team, which means on a Saturday he runs training and on a Sunday he does the matches. Same thing for him. He does training, comes home, has the same breakfast that he has pretty much every other day of the week. Okay, same thing on a Sunday. So even though they're a bit later for him, he's still doing it. Okay, so what can you keep the same? What structure and routine can you apply to your weekend? Because particularly if you've got kids, I would imagine that, even if you are quite a spontaneous person and you don't like too much routine and structure, I would imagine you still have some things that are always done at the weekend. So what can you keep the same? Okay, strategy number 3 then is plan and track ahead of time. Okay, so if you're going out for dinner on Saturday night, look at the menu before you go. Decide what you're going to have. Put that in, if you're tracking on an app, put that into your app, or if you're writing it down, or at least have an idea of what you're having so that what the rest of the day needs to look like. And then you can plan the rest of the day around that. And I can probably hear some of you saying, I don't want to be that structured, Chrissy. I want to go out for dinner and just decide when, what if I don't fancy that when I get there? What if I fancy something different? Again, this comes back to some of those decisions and compromises that you have to make. So if you have a fat loss goal, if you want to lose body fat, these are the tools that you're going to need to use. These are the things that are going to help you. And I appreciate some people do prefer much more spontaneity. I quite like routine, and some people just really like to leave their options open. I get that. But you know what? If you want to achieve your goals, sometimes you do have to do the things that aren't particularly natural to you. So if you want to go out and have a dinner and enjoy it guilt-free, I recommend you look at the menu ahead of time, decide what you are going to have, and do your best to track that meal in however you track, and then plan the rest of your day around that. Okay, and then there are some other tools which I'll come back to in a second, which can really help you when it comes to eating out. So being a bit more planful. Other things are, setting some rules around that for yourself as well. So particularly if alcohol tends to be one of those things that, leads you to struggle during the week, during the weekend. So say you are going out for dinner and you want to say, right, I'm going to have 2 drinks, or I'm going to have 1 drink and drive, or I'm going to have 3 drinks and that's it. Pre-track those drinks. Decide what you're going to have. I'm sure most of you know what some of the smarter drink swaps are in terms of calories, but drinking things like clear spirits and a diet mixer will save you hundreds of calories versus things like wine or beer or your full fat mixers and spirits and things like that, or cocktails in particular. Cocktails can rack up 200, 300, 400 calories really easily. So set some rules around it. I am going to drink and I am going to enjoy that meal, but I'm just going to have X number of drinks and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to switch to water, or I'm going to switch to Diet Coke, something like that. The other thing to add in, so another strategy for you, is around habits. So I have a few clients who find that actually they find that they walk less, they get less steps during the weekend. Maybe because they're watching the kids play football, or they're stuck in the swimming pool, on the side of the swimming pool watching the kids have their lesson or whatever. And if you're running around from party to party and all the plans that the children have, you might not get as many steps in. I've got some clients that actually find it easier to get more steps at the weekend. But either way, if you have a routine of going out for a walk every day, Monday to Friday, plan in to go for a walk Saturday and Sunday. Now, it might not be as long a walk. It might not be as, in the same place because you have other plans, but still keep that walk in. So for me, I walk the dog every morning and I walk after lunch every day as well. So I do the same Saturday and Sundays. And then on the days when I'm perhaps not going out, I'm not going to be able to walk him at lunchtime, I'll leave his morning walk until a bit later. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, that was my calendar. I'll leave his walk till a bit later so that I'm getting the best of both. So still try to plan in those walks and things like that so that you're still getting the time to do them. So try to keep those habits. And keep the food habits as well. If you tend to eat your breakfast at 8 a.m. every day, try to eat at 8 a.m. on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday. If you tend to eat lunch at 1, try to do the same. If you tend to eat dinner at 6:37, try to do the same where possible. Other things for like getting your steps in and stuff. So say you are watching the kids playing football or rugby or whatever it is, cricket, whatever season, can you, rather than just standing on the side of the pitch, can you do a lap of the pitch? Okay. If they're swimming, you kind of have to stay at the side of the swimming pool. You can't go walking around it. Okay, so can you take breakfast with you or lunch with you to eat whilst they're swimming, rather than grabbing that coffee and high calorie pre-made sandwich at the swimming pool cafe? So what habits can you keep or can you add in for the weekend? And then a couple of other things that help with the more social occasions at the weekend that I want to talk about. So first one is calorie cycling. So let's say, for example, your calories are set at 2,000 per day. If you are going out on Saturday night and you are going for dinner, and so if you're going out for dinner on Saturday night, you could choose to maybe reduce your calorie intake Monday to Friday by 100 or 200 calories to save some calories for that Saturday night. Now, I wouldn't recommend that you do, more than that 200, because otherwise we can get into binge restrict. But, and I wouldn't recommend that you do it every weekend either, but for a big night out or a really special meal that you want, it's an absolute great tool to have. The other thing which I find really works for me, so I prefer this to calorie cycling for myself personally, so some of my other clients really work well with calorie cycling, is using fasting as a bit of a tip. So for example, I said that yesterday we went out for a roast dinner. I had a look at the roast dinner that I was going to have. Being pescatarian, there was only one option, which was a nut roast, and it was about 947 calories, which is a lot higher than I would ever make a roast dinner at home. And so I knew that if I wanted to have that roast dinner and a glass of wine, I was probably going to have to delay eating my breakfast. So we were booked in for the pub for 3. I normally would have my breakfast at 9 o'clock. If I'd had my breakfast at 9 o'clock, I would have really struggled not to eat anything else until, we say 3, we didn't actually get our food till about 4. So, but I would have really struggled. I would have been hungry, I would have been grumpy, and I probably would have shoved about 3 biscuits in my mouth. So actually what I did was I didn't have my breakfast until 11:30 a.m. And over the last couple of weeks, I've really utilised this kind of delaying breakfast or fasting approach. It's not something I enjoy doing every day because I train first thing in the morning, I get really hungry, I get really stressed. I don't enjoy doing it regularly, but I have done it about 3 times in the last 10 days, just where I've either had a really early start or I've had plans to go out where the calories are going to be a little bit higher. And it just allows me, by giving myself a shorter amount of time to eat, it just allows me to control those calories. So there are lots and lots of tools that you can use to help you. But I want to come back to my first point, which is really, it's about changing your mindset, okay? And this is something that you have to do. This is something that you have to decide, that just because it's Friday night, it's Saturday, it's Sunday, it doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. You still have goals, you still have habits, you still have targets, you still have, a plan that you want to adhere to. So it's about switching that mindset and actually saying, no, just because it's the weekend, I'm not off plan. I'm going to choose to stick to my goals, to the plan that I've created. And that's going to be such a game changer if you can make that switch. And it takes practice. Remember, there's no such thing as perfect. And that actually just taking small actions like having the same breakfast, that could really help. That could really help with the rest of the day, or getting out for a morning walk and setting yourself up for a great day in that way. So I hope that you found this useful. I hope that this helps you to stay on track this next weekend coming. Let me know. Don't forget to leave me a review and share the podcast if you found it useful. And I will see you again next week. Bye bye.